The silence is deafening, isn't it? When your avoidant man suddenly goes quiet, when he stops responding, or he emotionally checks out, and you're left wondering what you did wrong. You feel anxiety. You feel confusion. You don't know what happened, and you don't know how to make it better. Their silence is screaming in your ears. You're afraid when the communication stops, but you're also afraid it will never start again. You're afraid what's going on behind that barrier, behind those eyes, but now you can't find out. You enter a spiral of overthinking. What's going on? What can I do? But nothing seems to work. And then the worst case scenario thinking kicks in. Maybe he's over me. Maybe he's leaving me. Maybe he's fallen out of love with me. Maybe this is it. I'm Adam Lane Smith, the attachment specialist, and I have helped thousands of couples break through these silence cycles and rebuild deep, lasting connections. Now, by the end of this video, you're going to understand exactly what's happening in his brain when he goes silent, why your natural responses might actually be making things worse, and the exact approach that will help you reconnect with him. Now, before we dive into the effective strategies that will help you reconnect, let's first address the biggest misunderstanding that keeps so many women stuck in this painful cycle. There's actually a huge gap between what you think is happening when he goes silent and what's actually going on in his mind. Now, what you think he's thinking when he goes silent is probably something like the following. The common narratives that women usually create in their head when a man goes silent is, he doesn't care about me. He's furious at me. The abandonment fears then begin to surface. I'm just too much. Then the comparison trap starts. He probably wishes he was with someone else right now. Then the projection of rejection kicks in. He's probably thinking about or fantasizing about other women right now. When really, what's actually happening when he goes silent is more likely, I don't know what to say that isn't going to make this worse. Or it could be that he's thinking about work, or he's in a dorsal-vagal shutdown. We'll talk about that. And there's not thinking anything at all. A woman's brain is full of a million thoughts at once. It's programmed to multitask that way. But a man can absolutely just be sitting there thinking nothing because they can be in a completely passive mental state where his mind is just blank. Women do not understand this. And because women can't do this, they don't trust it. So when she asks, what are you thinking? He replies, nothing. She assumes he's hiding something from her. If a woman pushes on this and implies that he's a liar, it's one of the worst things she can do. So why do women spiral into negative thought cycles when men go silent? And men can go silent just because they're not thinking. They can go silent because they're quiet. They can go silent in the middle of an argument. They can go silent after emotional connection. Why is silence so threatening? When a man goes silent, a woman's brain typically registers it as a social threat because she would only go silent and stop communicating or seemingly block someone out when she was angry at them, when she hated them, when she didn't want them anymore, or when they were just way too much. And this now, when he's reacting to you and giving you silence, triggers your amygdala, the brain's fear center, the alarm system, to release stress hormones like cortisol and adrenaline flooding through your system. This biochemical response activates your attachment system, which, if you are anxiously attached, puts your brain into danger mode and impairs your prefrontal cortex, the rational thinking part of your brain, that goes offline. The longer the silence continues, the more your brain enters a state of hypervigilance, terror, fear, and convincing arguments that you're about to be abandoned. It's scanning for any sign of rejection or abandonment, making more out of insignificant things because of your heightened arousal state. Your dopamine levels and serotonin levels plunge during these periods, creating actual withdrawal-like states that intensify feelings of terror, anxiety, and desperation. Now, psychologically, this has a tremendous number of negative effects. Your mind becomes locked in a negativity bias, automatically interpreting his silence in the worst possible light, and worse as it goes on. Your past relationship wounds reactivate, making you more likely to project old hurts onto the current situation. The longer you sit in this biochemical stress state, the more your thoughts become catastrophic and all or nothing. There is something called emotional impermanence, that when somebody's emotions and love and connection are in front of you, you believe them. But the moment they disappear from your sight and they're not being confirmed, you start to doubt them. And if there's even the smallest hint that maybe they aren't fully connected to you, or their feelings for you might be draining, you react with fear and terror. And then you chase and pursue and aggressively try to get proof of love again while they're calm or agitated or whatever they are, just reaching a calm, not quiet state. Your sense of self-worth becomes dangerously tied to his constant responsiveness, and his lack of responsiveness feels like death to you. Now, what's the behavioral result that we see from all this inner turmoil in a woman who's feeling this terrified? Well, the anxiety drives you to seek reassurance, sometimes through repeated texts or calls or confrontations, behaviors that actually push him further into withdrawal as he says, what is wrong with her? Why is she freaking out? Why is she demanding so much immediate compliance from me? What's going on? Your communication becomes emotionally charged, making it harder for him to re-engage. You start using very subjective emotional terms as you're craving co-regulation, but he perceives it as coercion. You might swing wildly between desperate attempts to reconnect and angry withdrawal on your own, especially if you're not just anxiously attached, but disorganized attachment style. Very common for that pattern like this. This creates a destructive push-pull dynamic that reinforces both your anxiety and his avoidant tendencies. This fosters a lot of codependency because you become triggered by him worse and worse and worse, slowly losing yourself to his mood swings as you hyperfixate on this relationship as an ongoing threat and your only source of safety, while you're not able to change the patterns because you're stuck in them. This is picked up by your children, if you have children together, because they see you freaking out when he's quiet or stressed. They see him stressed and pulling away, and both of you chasing and freaked out. Even if they just see you stressed and white knuckles on the steering wheel while you're driving to the grocery store, you wonder why everybody's stressed out all the time and disconnected. And that in turn creates an avoidant tendency in the children or an anxious tendency in the children. And they repeat your patterns because it's all they know. Now, however, while you're unraveling in a massive neurochemical reaction, this is what he's actually usually thinking. There's an overwhelm response maybe, and he's thinking these emotions are just too much for me to process right now. And I mean his emotions. My emotions are too much for me to process right now. I need to pull away and get some space and just kind of breathe. It's a capacity issue. I don't have the bandwidth to handle this discussion that we're in right now. I just feel like I'm overloaded. I'm shutting down. I'm fatigued. I need to shut it down because I'm so tired. The avoidance of disappointment. It's better to pull away than to say the wrong thing and make it worse. Or the temporary retreat. This is a bad time for me. I can make this up to her later. Now, when an emotional situation arises, for an avoidant man especially, he's experiencing a trauma response from emotional overload. When he's overwhelmed emotionally, his brain triggers a flood of cortisol that activates his sympathetic nervous system, the fight or flight response. This shuts down his prefrontal cortex to allow instant reptilian survival decision-making with survival as primary focus, not even long-term goals. His brain now is in a state of emergency, reducing blood flow to the verbal processing areas called Broca's area during stress, which means he can't even communicate effectively with you while he's trying to short-term solve problems. He's also trying not to fight with you because he's got fight or flight, so flight is the smarter option. And if he can't get away, freeze is even better, a dorsal-vagal shutdown where his system crashes because he doesn't want to fight you and hurt you or hurt himself. His testosterone levels actually drop during relationship conflict, while his cortisol levels spike, creating a biochemical state that drives withdrawal rather than engagement. Again, he doesn't want to fight you. He's pulling away to prevent a fight, not to cause one. His brain prioritizes emotional regulation himself through distance rather than co-regulation, which he doesn't understand, through connection. All of this is a response to lasting childhood trauma imprints from infancy and early childhood, which caused him to seek distance and protection against emotional closeness because his caregivers didn't co-regulate with him. They weren't stable and consistent, and they may have made things worse. So he learned being close to them was dangerous. That gave rise to his avoidant patterns in the first place. And that's what he's reliving now when he goes silent. Now, the resulting behaviors that you see and misinterpret are things like this. His sudden silence that isn't calculated rejection, it's his brain shutting down communication pathways to manage the overwhelming stress. His physical withdrawal, maybe even leaving the room, becoming absorbed in work or hobbies, is his attempt to regulate his emotional state, not a sign he doesn't care. A lot of avoidant men jump out of a relationship conversation, run in their office, close the door, and start checking their emails and trying to work because it's the only thing they know that they can do. And there's an emotional flatness or a blank stare that many women report isn't just disinterest. It's not that he doesn't care. It's his brain temporarily disconnecting from emotional processing to prevent overwhelm. It's even a freeze response to prevent you from being mad at him for having the wrong facial expression. Maybe his caregiver screamed at him in childhood for not smiling enough or for being too contemptuous or having too much of an attitude, and he's learned to have a blank face. But that flat affect is also a sign of full dissociation and disconnection. And I'll also say this. Once things cool down, his reluctance to revisit the topic later isn't usually forgetting or dismissing your concerns. It's his brain remembering that was a horrible, painful experience. I don't want to re-trigger that stress response. Please don't make me go there again. Now, there is a very clear attachment-based explanation for all of this, okay? Emotional abandonment is his attempt to preserve the relationship by preventing himself from saying or doing things he might regret, hurting himself or hurting you. But what he's doing and what you're feeling is emotional abandonment. This doesn't mean he's the villain or that you're the villain. It means this is an unregulated trauma response that you're actually both activating back and forth. The timing of his withdrawal coincides with moments, usually quite often, of deeper intimacy or conflict, which is precisely when his avoidant attachment system is most activated and when you most need the connection. So it's painful for you and overwhelming for him. This pattern is not intentional or conscious or malicious. It's a deeply ingrained survival response from his attachment history that's flooding through his hormones and neurotransmitters, his brain, everything is activating. This is not a choice, and neither one of you is the villain here, but we do need to fix it. Now, there is a huge cost to this misunderstanding. Him pulling away activates your fear of loss and abandonment, and you chasing actually creates a self-fulfilling prophecy of driving him away. And when he does come back, you try to reconnect, and both of you go back and forth, and it's an endless loop that eventually starts to degrade the relationship. This misreading creates a negative feedback loop between both of you that reinforces his withdrawal over and over and over again. The result is a deep feeling of animosity between you that grows and erodes your relationship. There are so many lost opportunities for intimacy that won't grow. So again, if you have children, they won't experience the fullness of bonding in the family connection. The cost is that they won't even know it's possible later in life. And you continue to cycle in this relationship, watching it degrade around you, wondering how long this can possibly go on. For your children, again, the pain, the struggle, the turmoil they witness in the family system will likely turn your children anxious and approval seeking to get help because they don't feel safe, or turn them avoidant for just having no idea how to navigate intimate relationships with others, and they don't want any part of this system. So they simply stay away from systems they perceive to be chaos, which means intimate connections. This in turn often divides families so that children are not comfortable in their parents' presence, and they have less and less time with them as they get older. They put more and more distance between you. Not righting this problem now and stopping this painful cycle is setting children up for a lifetime of attachment issues themselves. And over time, for the two of you, repeatedly letting this behavior go teaches both of you to see each other as a threat. That makes automatic connection impossible to reestablish because you're both stuck in a cortisol-fueled cycle of stress. The cortisol association here of you are not my ally, you make things worse, is what divides you completely. You can't see it this way. You can't build this kind of relationship and then have a loving, intimate bond. There's actually a very specific biological cycle that goes on in this feedback that's unconsciously reinforcing your behaviors. Now, on the anxious side, that's what his brain's doing. On your side, every time he withdraws and returns, your brain receives an unpredictable reward that triggers a huge surge of oxytocin and dopamine, creating the same neurochemical pattern seen in addiction. This intermittent reinforcement is actually more powerful than a consistent reward, which makes the push-pull dynamic neurologically addictive for both of you. Your anxiety during his silence causes cortisol spikes that prime your nervous system to overreact to small cues, which makes you hypersensitive to his next withdrawal. And his return after withdrawal again activates your brain's reward center so intensely that it can override the rational assessment of whether the relationship is actually meeting your needs. Over time, this cycle creates actual neurological pathways in both partners' brains, making the pattern increasingly automatic and difficult to break without conscious intervention. Now, the stress hormones released during these cycles eventually damage both partners' immune systems, fertility systems, hormone systems, sleep systems, and your emotional regulation capabilities. That explains why these relationships often feel physically and emotionally exhausting to you. From this explanation, I hope you can understand his silence and withdrawal is not personal, okay? The withdrawal is from stress, not from you. His nervous system is tied in with avoidant behavior, and the cortisol and testosterone affect male communication during stress, and the logical brain goes offline. Recognizing these biological patterns is the first step toward transforming your relationship. While we continue exploring solutions in this video, so keep watching, many women tell me they need more immediate, in-depth guidance how to break these painful silence cycles. That's why I'm offering a limited time opportunity to get my How to Love an Avoidant Man course at 40% off. This comprehensive program gives you the exact scripts, strategies, and step-by-step guidance to create deeper connection with your avoidant partner, even when he withdraws. My new marriage course launches in June, but this flash sale now ensures you can start working on your relationship today. Visit adamlanesmith.com or click the link below to access this special offer. Now that you understand the biology driving both of your behaviors, let's examine why the very reactions that feel most natural to you in these moments are precisely what deepens this painful cycle. Your intuitive responses, while completely understandable, are unintentionally feeding the very dynamic that you're trying to break. Here are some common mistakes that actually deepen a man's silence. Demanding immediate responses while he's overloaded. Emotional escalation, try to break through, again, while he's already overloaded. Accusatory questions and statements that make him feel like you're blaming him when he's already overloaded. Threatening consequences for his silence when the silence is to prevent damage and stop fighting. The impact of these approaches on the avoidance nervous system creates massive pressure, which triggers more withdrawal and more silence. Don't do these things. These are the worst possible reactions you can have, but they will spring naturally from your own nervous system. So understand them, calm them, don't do them. Now, when he goes silent and the woman says, just talk to me, what he hears is an overwhelming demand for stimulation. He's not hearing a bid for connection, and it sounds to him as, give me attention or get up and fight me like a man. When she says, you don't care about me, and he goes silent, what he's thinking is, she has zero appreciation or respect for me whatsoever. She just wants to feel good all the time, and that's not something I'll be able to provide. When she says, I just want you to be vulnerable with me, his thinking is, you want me to lose my self-respect by sharing the weak parts of me that nobody could ever accept. And it's pointless because I'm just going to feel terrible and you'll just leave me anyway. So I'm just going to stay silent. When she says, you always do this and you're just stonewalling me, when he's actually in vagal dorsal shutdown, he thinks, she doesn't even care that I'm feeling awful right now. I can't get peace or relax when I'm around her, and she just continues to yell at me. I can't even continue this. It's unacceptable behavior. Armed with this understanding of what doesn't work, let's now turn back to practical solutions that can transform this pattern completely. Using these strategies when your avoidant man goes silent will create the exact conditions his nervous system needs to connect with you. First, you need to know how to recognize when his system is overloaded so you can relieve the pressure. Watch for his shutdown signals, physical tells like a tightened jaw, shallow breathing, breaking eye contact, looking at you like this from one eye, or suddenly becoming very still. or short one-word answers. These appear before full withdrawal, and they indicate his nervous system is approaching overwhelm. Also notice timing patterns. Avoidant men typically withdraw after emotional intimacy, after relationship milestones, or when they're facing multiple stressors, work pressure plus relationship discussions combined on top of each other. Pay attention to communication shifts when he starts speaking in much shorter sentences, giving delayed responses, or switching to logical, practical topics during emotional conversations. This means his system is signaling it's reaching its capacity. The signs that distinguish temporary withdrawal from serious problems, specific cues and signal overload versus disinterest, are also very interesting. Look for pattern changes without recovery. Temporary withdrawal follows predictable cycles with reconnection, while serious disinterest shows increasingly longer absences with minimal effort to reconnect afterward. Emotional flatness during good times is also a bad sign. If he remains emotionally unavailable, even during positive interactions and happy occasions, not just during conflict, that signals much deeper disconnection. Make sure you're on the lookout for consistent deflection of future plans. Temporary withdrawal doesn't prevent him from committing to future events, but serious disinterest is marked by persistent vagueness about upcoming plans and reluctance to discuss any future together. Reducing the perceived pressure is the key to reconnection. It works because it directly addresses his attachment system's fear response rather than triggering it further. So when you create space, instead of pursuing, you interrupt the biological fight or flight reaction that drives his withdrawal in the first place. This counterintuitive approach allows his nervous system to regulate, and that creates the psychological safety his brain requires before emotional reconnection becomes possible. The easiest way to reduce perceived pressure is to make sure you are self-regulated before engaging so that you can approach communication or a discussion around needs from a place of calm. Your dysregulation feeds his dysregulation, and conversely, your calm will make it easier for him to remain calm. There's a key distinction here, though, that must be made. You're not lowering your standards. You're not releasing him from expectations. You're not catering to his avoidance by giving up your desires. You must not do those things. Rather, you're approaching in a calm manner and providing a friendly social experience that also preserves your healthy boundaries. Your calm is the number one thing he needs in order to believe that you're going to be fair with him during this exchange. Now that you're going to be calm, I want to give you examples of what to say that reduce pressure for him while still maintaining connection. Here's just some examples of things you could say. Hey, can I ask for something simple? A quick daily text or a voice note in the evening really helps me feel grounded. And it doesn't have to be long. Just something like, hey, thinking of you. It keeps me calm and present, and I think it makes things more relaxed between us without taking up your space. Or, I've realized small things like holding hands or sitting close help me feel more connected. Would you be okay doing that a little bit more? It settles my nervous system and it helps me stay relaxed, which makes being around each other feel a lot smoother. Or, I know future talk isn't your thing, but checking in once a month about where we're headed would help me feel so much more secure. It doesn't have to be deep, just enough to keep me from overthinking, which makes things easier for both of us. Or, when we argue, it really helps if we stay in the talk for at least 15 minutes before taking some space. I don't need a solution right away. I just need to know that you're still present. That helps me calm down faster, and that makes conflict less intense overall. Understanding his withdrawal doesn't mean sacrificing your own emotional needs, as you just heard, or accepting less than you deserve. Nothing in there was, okay, I don't have needs, fine, do what you want. We're trying to create a balanced approach in your relationship where both partners can process their natural styles together while maintaining connection and mutual respect. Now, genuinely acknowledging his capacity limits without resentment can be tough, but if you frame his need for space as a processing difference in your brain rather than a character flaw or a rejection of you, it gets so much easier. That's what this whole video has been about. Recognize that his capacity limits are about his nervous system, not a measurement of his feelings for you. There's a big difference between enabling his avoidance and respecting his processing differences. I don't want you to give up your needs or just say, okay, I just won't get them met, and you don't endlessly cater to him and never speak when he leaves. You make sure that you are calm and regulated, and you ask him to do the same. Enabling occurs when you never address the pattern. Respect acknowledges the need while establishing healthy reconnection and expectations. Respect means accepting temporary withdrawals at times. Enabling means accepting permanent emotional unavailability. Now, the key here is whether he takes responsibility for reconnecting after processing, and if he takes responsibility for learning to regulate himself better so he doesn't have to take those runaway moments. Together, by doing this, you can build trust through consistency and mutual respect, and you can process those differences, and that's fine. That's the basis of a healthy relationship, regardless of attachment differences. Your needs should still be getting met too. Just create your clear boundaries from a calm, kind place. Then make sure you're getting oxytocin from family and friends so you're not hyperfixated on him, and have clear expectations around reconnection. Don't cater. Build a relationship that works for both of you. And finally, you need a longer-term solution. Here's how to create some lasting change, which requires addressing the deeper patterns in the relationship. Let's explore how to build a secure foundation that gradually reduces these silent periods and strengthens your connection over time. That begins by setting healthy boundaries. Things you must be talking about. Creating routines around connection with clear expectations for individual time in your schedules and scheduled couple times. Establishing communication agreements during calm periods about how you will interact during conflicts and learning those skills while you're calm. Building his emotional capacity gradually over time so that he rewires his understanding of how to relate to you and not get overwhelmed because he trusts you. Building a pathway back to connection after the silence. We call this a reunification ritual. Couples must have these in place. It's a repair afterward. It is a crucial aspect that social mammals do. You must have a clear reunification ritual. Otherwise, you will walk on eggshells forever, both of you. As you begin to build resilience against his patterns and calm yourself, your quality of life goes up. This is not about him being happy. This is about you being calm so that when he's dysregulated, it doesn't spark you out of control. That means regulating yourself. Managing resentment or aggression patterns in the relationship is crucial. If any hostility or resentment is present, you guys must resolve this. It will eat away at the heart of what you're trying to build. And then building your own happiness and secure attachment and inviting him to join you in that. This is a crucial step as well. Finally, setting up the right system together as a couple to prevent damage to children that are present while being able to help him adjust and you adjust, and everybody works together to love and bond and connect. This is a whole system framework, you guys. I could talk for 10 or 15 hours about this, okay? I've done so on this channel for many, many, many years. Make sure you are building the long-term systems in addition to what I've taught you so far here in this video. Now, I want to say this. It takes tremendous strength to step back when every instinct is telling you to pursue that silent partner and just try harder to get him to open up. However, I'll also say this. Your willingness to understand what's really happening with your avoidant man shows how much you love him and value your relationship. By responding to his silence with understanding, expectations, but understanding, instead of fear and panic, you'll create the exact conditions that help him build greater emotional capacity over time. Loving an avoidant man is not without its challenges, but when you can understand what he's going through and respond in a way that makes sense to him, you pave the way for a deeply connected relationship that respects both of your needs, desires, and wants. If you want to master the exact techniques that open up communication, connection, and intimacy with an avoidant man, I have a new marriage course launching in June. This new course is going to show you how to build the most incredible romantic bond with your partner that will last a lifetime. But I know that a lot of you are struggling right now, and you don't want to wait for that course to launch before taking action because you're worried that maybe your love will slip away in the meantime. So to help you out before that course launches, I'm putting my How to Love an Avoidant Man course on sale at 40% off. I'm doing this to make sure you have access to a resource that can definitely help you build an amazing relationship while you wait for the master course that will redefine marriage to launch. The link to that flash sale on the course is in the description below, or you can visit adamlanesmith.com to gain access to the reduced price. This course has helped thousands of women build long-term loving relationships with their avoidant partner. And I know this course can help you too. If this video was helpful, please like, comment, subscribe, and share it with somebody who needs to hear this information today. Thank you.